Hi everyone, my name is Britain Cline, Ad Sales Manager, and welcome to this week's edition of Marketing Minutes by Scuba Diving Industry Magazine.
And I'm William Cline, publisher. Thank you for watching our new series. If you're a diving-related company out there and you'd like to come on our podcast, reach out to Britain or I, and we'd love to have you on. I think we're up to, 45 shows as of today on this
50,
this
man.
series.
We're
We're
close.
moving through. So who do we have today?
Yes, today joining us is Jacque. I'm very, very excited about today's show. She's the Senior Director of Retail and Wholesale for Americas and Caribbean for DOXA Watches from Zurich, Switzerland. Jacque, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on, and congratulations for almost 50 shows done. That's well done and exciting, and I'm glad that not only myself but DOXA gets to be a part of that adventure.
Totally.
Well, that's really cool, and I can't wait to hear what we're going to talk about today because,
Yeah.
Jacques Cousteau wore a DOXA.
That's right.
Come on,
That's
the
right.
legend himself.
How much cooler can you
You
get?
can't, right? That's great.
That's right. But just to kind of jump into it, DOXA watches were in fact developed with a partnership with Jacques Cousteau and other pro divers, of course, which is a cool little bit of history for everyone there. But how do you think that history with Cousteau may affect modern marketing today?
Yeah, so, I wish I've been with DOXA for about 2 years, and I wish that we could go deeper into the Jacques story. Obviously, he himself is just such a icon and a character, and he's his own business, right? His family is continuing to carry on his legacy through Aqualung and other business ventures. But the main point that we can continue to highlight with Jacques Cousteau very openly and freely is that in 1964, Jacques joined our research and development team. And his purpose was to create the safest diving watch in the world. So that's part of how DOXA started moving into the water. Wow. Because pre-1960s, we weren't in the water. We were pocket watches, we were military clocks, we were car clocks, dinner watches. We weren't doing this ocean thing. The whole industry, of course, started moving into the ocean in the early 60s, or into the waters, I guess we could say, with waterproof and water-resistant watches. But Jacques joining our research and development team and choosing DOXA as a brand that's synonymous with high quality and high function really changed the trajectory of DOXA's entire history. And to this day, we are now only an automatic dive watch company. We don't make any quartz movements. We're not trying to go after the military watches anymore, or these kind of dinner watches. So it's interesting how that shaped our past and therefore our future. Something that we do with Jacques' company Aqualung is we did make a limited edition carbon watch about 3 years ago.
That's pretty cool.
And it was only, I think you guys got to see one in person at the Long Beach Scuba show. So that's a really, really cool piece. And I think that's a beautiful way that we continue to link backwards to that relationship. Because of course, Jacques Cousteau also had the distribution rights for America in the 70s and into the early 80s. And when his company kind of went to sleep and his path in life kind of changed, and unfortunately he's no longer with us, but when all of that kind of was happening, we went back to Europe. And so there's this whole generation of American divers and adventurers and watch enthusiasts that never got to touch a DOXA, where Jacques Cousteau's story is extremely important for continuing to create that emotional link. Which has made my job so much more fun because I get to meet cool people like you guys. I dive myself. I've been a diver.
That's great.
That's so fantastic.
And I love the watch community too. So it's cool to see all of those things combined and blend in the ways that they do. And that DOXA is kind of that interesting bridge between those two hobbies.
That's amazing. I didn't know this in doing research for this little interview that you were the first watch company to have a no-decompression bezel, the first watch company with a helium valve for deep saturation diving. So what are the features is DOXA known for, and what are the advantages, say, of your watches versus some of the other similar competitors out there?
Nice. Wow.
Yeah, I would say that an advantage of a DOXA, besides what you discussed, the no decompression bezel, we were the first one to create and patent that with the U.S. Navy no decompression chart on the double soldered, rotational bezel, the helium escape valve. So that's a fun topic. So the helium escape valve was actually created with a DOXA engineer and a Rolex engineer. So they were like buddies, as the story goes, in the 60s, and they would literally nerd out all weekend and build complications when they weren't at work. And they actually created the helium escape valve together. Wow. So what's interesting is that we used that technology with the Swiss Army first, and we were the first company in the world to release it to the grand public in 1968 with the Conquistador 300T watch, which we still have that kind of homage piece to this day. Of course, it's a little more sleek, a little more modern than that original 1968 version. But then Rolex patented the helium escape valve first, and then they released their watch in 1969, a year after us. So I would say that DOXA continues that trend of focusing on diver safety. There's tons of dive watches in the world, but there's not many brands that are looking at the specs of the watch. How high is the watch sitting off the wrist? How much steel or titanium do we need to keep the watch safe to the deepest depths? Our current deepest depth rated watch is 1,500 meters. So that's, quite, more for that's cave incredible. Divers than just regular enthusiasts. And we continue to worry about things like, is the bracelet integrated? So is it perfectly smooth so that there's no surface for you to get stuck on something, whether underwater or on the boat with the watch? Not many other brands kind of look into those details. And I think that that's where DOXA sits differently than the rest of the world, and that we stay true to that heritage and that we take the diver safety extremely important, which is funny because I would tell you probably 90% of our sales are to people that don't even go into pools.
No kidding.
Right.
Wow.
So it's crazy to think about that we are still so concerned about diver safety, and it's not even really our biggest client base at this point.
That's
for sure.
That's amazing.
That is. It's very incredible. So DOXA's lineup covers entry-level pieces like the sub 200, the mid-tier coach classics like the sub 300T, and the professional grade sub 1500T, as well as the 600T models. So how would you approach maybe serving different segments from I don't know, say recreational divers all the way to commercial or even military users, while at the same time keeping that coherence that you have across all of your product tiers?
That's a good question.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So there's many different ways that we can answer this question. So, as I said before, diver safety and function is always going to be our DNA, and it's always our number one focus. Now, like you mentioned, in the collection, there's a watch for everyone on that spectrum of whether it's diving or watch enthusiast. Sure. So with the sub 200, my entry-level watch, which right now is opening at $920 on a NATO strap or $1,050 on a rubber, $1,090 on a stainless steel bracelet. That watch, what divers don't realize, I think sometimes, and I learned from the Long Beach scuba show that they don't really care about the movement that's in the watch. Sadly, that's more of, I guess, like a watch enthusiast thing that we kind of geek out on the movements. But in that watch, you're getting a Sellita SW200 elaborate movement. And that's a long way to say that you're not getting an entry-level movement. You're actually getting a pretty high-level movement. And most other brands are selling that watch at more of like a $4,000 to $6,000 opening price point.
That's right.
So with DOXA, you're getting so much quality for your money. And sometimes I had talked to people in the industry and they're like, this doesn't even make sense. How can you sell this watch for this price point? Like the margins of this.
Right.
And obviously we have our own business model and strategy, but the main strategy is making the watch affordable to anyone who wants to own one. So whether that is a diver or it's a desk diver, that there's that entry level point. And that watch is going 200 meters. So that's deeper than normal PADI certification, open water certification. So with a 200-meter watch, you're pretty much covered no matter what type of diving you want to do, unless it's more of a technical cave dive, of course. But you're going over 600 feet under with just our opening price point watch. Moving through the collection, of course, the 300T, that was the watch Jacques Cousteau wore. And also his son wore, whether in orange, professional is what we call orange in the company. So he wore 300T professional or 300T shark hunter, which is our black dial Pantone. Jacques Cousteau did, and I think his son only wore the black 300T. So that's still a fan favorite. You're still getting that history of the helium escape valve, and that one's coming in right now at $1,000 $1,990 on stainless steel. Beautiful. And then, like you said, moving through, the 600T is going 600 meters. The 300T can actually go 1,200 meters.
Jeez.
Wow.
600T, 600 meters, 1500T, 1500 meters. And then the sub 300 collection, those watches originally came out in 1965. They're the ones with the really domed sapphire crystal. Those have a COSC certified movement. So for divers who don't care about movements, COSC certification is a certification by the Swiss, I believe, government. It's a standard that the watch has to hold time within, I think it's 0.05 seconds every single day, no matter if it's extreme heat, extreme cold, extreme depth. So that the movements are basically put through these really, really extreme rigorous tests to prove whether or not they are extremely accurate. And so we have those sorts of movements for people that's extremely important to. And those pieces can only go 300 meters, but still, I mean, 300 meters, almost 1,000 feet. You're still
it's a lot of bang for your buck.
Yeah, you're getting past even commercial diving, I believe, at that point. So,
that's right.
DOXA kind of has something for everyone in that aspect.
So cool.
So our show is really directed to retailers and dive professionals out there. That's who our primary audience is, just like the magazine. What do you have in terms of a retailer program, or how do you approach retailers to say, hey, we think we have a clientele that would support being a dealer of your watches?
Nice.
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing because, like I said earlier, Jacques Cousteau had the distribution rights in America for many, many years. And he, of course, had his own diving shops, and DOXAs were sold in his diving shops, as well as many other independently owned diving shops in the 70s and 80s in America. And now when we re-entered America almost 4 years ago, we re-entered in a very, very, very different capacity. So we re-entered with Watches of Switzerland, which is kind of like the creme de la creme of the watch industry, watch stores, so to speak. And they had a 2-year exclusivity. So now, instead of going back to the dive shops per se, we entered the market as a luxury dive watch. And so in luxury level retailers, we do have a plan to roll out a sort of partnership with dive shops. We have some ideas on how we want that to look and feel, because we do want to reconnect more deeply with the US dive community, as well as the global dive community, because of course there seems to be, a few years that we went to sleep and we kind of missed in a way. But that's kind of a little bit of a longer term plan that won't really be activated until a couple of years from now, probably.
For sure. Well, how exciting.
That's great. Jackie, thank you for this information. It's been fantastic. If you're a retailer out there, Jacque O'Rourke, they can reach out to you through the DOXA website, I assume.
Yes, reach out to our friend Jackie.
Yeah, or reply to this video, and we'll be glad to put you in touch with her.
That's right.
I assume you're going to be at the DEMA show in 125 days, believe it or not.
Oh my gosh.
My God, 125 days. I don't know that I'll be at DEMA. But we'll see. You never know where I'm going to pop up. But I have a friend that likes to put up his DOXA banner and wear his DOXA hat. So someone will be representing DOXA at DEMA, I can assure of that. But if there is a really great dive shop that's really, really deeply interested in partnering together, or at least being put on our list, so that when we're really ready to fully execute that dive shop partnership and what that'll look like, please contact me. I'm happy to give them information and keep them updated on our progress forward on that front.
Yeah, there are shops out there that sell a single dive trip, a vacation, for up to $60,000 per person. So, I mean,
of course,
you've got the great gambit of shops that cater to all different levels. And I mean, it's not unusual for a shop to sell a Galapagos trip that could be in the $8,000 to $9,000 range. So, the diving industry could definitely support that level of products. So if you're out there, reach out to Jackie or us, and we'll put you in touch.
Very exciting conversation.
Britain, who do we get queued up next on our next show?
Coming up next, our guest is going to be Scott Sanders, believe it or not, from TUSA. He's a guy I know you guys know a little bit about, and I cannot wait to just dive right into that. It's going to be a great conversation, and we're going to chat a little bit about what's new over there with our friends at TUSA.
That sounds fantastic. So thanks again for being with us, Jackie, and we look forward to catching up with you next time. Now, are you in Boca or are you over in Switzerland?
No, I live in Miami.
Miami,
So
okay.
thank
Beautiful.
God. Oh my God.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
territory is easier is if I also had to fly from Switzerland to get to work.
Yeah, that would be
week.
rough.
I'm based in Miami. But like I like to say to everyone, I'm really just based on an American Airlines flight near you because I'm on the road almost every week, bringing DOXA to different cities and stores and doing activations. So it's a cool job, and hopefully I'll get to meet some more of you in the wild.
That'd be great.
Totally.
We'd love that. Well,
Yeah.
thank you again for being on our show. And
It was a pleasure and an honor.
The new issue is out. June issue is in the. It's been received by dive shops all over the country. So
That's right.
till
Make
next
sure you
time.
check that out.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much for having me.
You're welcome,
Pleasure.
Jacque.